Okay, today I'm going to be talking about one of the worst things you can possibly do to your backs. Before we get to that, let's first of all think about lumbar spines. Now, what we've talked about before in one of my earlier videos were the three major causes of lower back failure. That is a major trauma, which is not very common, or sustained trauma, meaning poor posture for extended periods of time, slouching like this, rounding that spine, which then pushes the discs backwards, strains the ligaments. That's a sustained posture. And the third way is repetitive poor lifting techniques, bending lifting techniques. And again, it's all what we're talking about is flexing that spine, losing that inward curve in your lumbar spine, or neutral spine as we call it. So the thing that you want to be doing with your lumbar spine at all times is, if you're bending, you are hinging at the hips. You are not rounding or flexing that lumbar spine, because as soon as you do that, the muscles electronically basically switch off, your lumbar muscles, and all the pressure then goes onto your ligaments and your discs, and then you can be in a world of trouble with your lower back. So there's no way known you can have a lumbar spine that is pain-free if you do not stop causing your pain. So hip hinging, and I'll go into this with more specificity at another date, but what you want to remember right now is always have lumbar neutral spine and bend at the hips, okay? And that's called hip hinging. So knowing that you do not want to continually flex or extend your spine, because your spine is, think of it like a stick. The more you bend it like this, backwards and forwards, okay, so backwards and forwards, flexing and extending, it only has a certain amount of time before it gets damaged, just like a stick. A stick will break, and your spine is no different. After a while, it will, whether it's sustained poor posture or whether it's just poor lifting techniques, after a while your backs will give out. And it is very much like the straw that breaks the camel's back with your back. So to avoid this, you want to engage your lumbar muscles, or your whole abdominal corset actually, and we'll go into that. Abdominal bracing and neutral spine is what we want to achieve. But for the moment, just know that you want to be continuing with a neutral spine. Now, what do people do? A lot of people then get up in the morning, and the first thing they do, with good intentions mind you, the first things they'll do is perhaps bring their knees to their chest. They'll go down with a fully flexed lumbar spine, and this is how you can blow discs very easily. Fully flexed lumbar spine, and go down and touch their toes. This is worse for the fact that, one, these are bad exercises to do anyway, for the same reasons I've just spoken about flexing your lower back. You don't want to be doing this, fully flexing your lower back. But it's made even worse, a lot worse, in the mornings, because what happens is during the night your discs swell up. They're like little sponges. Through osmosis they draw in nutrients and fluids, and they swell up, so that at the very start of the morning, for the first hour or two, you've got a lot more pressure in your spines. So if you didn't know that it wasn't bad enough to flex your spine anyway, it's a 300% greater risk of ligament damage in the first hour or two of the morning, because of that excessive pressure built up overnight as your discs absorb liquids. So, if you want to really hurt your back, bend forward, touch your toes with a rounded lumbar spine. You want to make a 300% greater chance of ligament injury, do it in the first hour or two of the morning. So, one of the worst things you can do is fully flexing your lumbar spine. In other words, go down and touch your toes first thing in the morning. Studies have shown for people who suffer from lower back pain, who are doing this, just simply by not doing this in the morning, has eased or even removed their back pain. So that's one of the worst things you can do for lower backs.